everybody. Thank you for taking some time to join us. I am Marcus Jenkins. I'll be kind of facilitating, hosting this for us here briefly. Do want to let you know we will be starting the recording. So, at this point in time, thank you again for joining. We are After School HQ. And we're excited to have you. So, as always, we host numerous webinars to provide additional education. And today will be a special day with Miss Desiree giving us a little bit of insight. So, just giving you a heads up for those first time crossing paths with After School at Q, we are a CRM company based out of Indiana, where our goal is to help be able to provide streamlined solutions for youth-based organizations that will help you, one, be able to engage students and parents, two, provide a centralized tool for your team, and last but not least, make it easy to report on the impact of your organization. But today, we have somebody special that will be sharing a little bit additional insight and giving a proper introduction. So we have Catch Global Foundation, which is a nonprofit dedicated to increasing the
Oh,
availability
okay.
and
Wait, can you?
adoption of evidence-based health programs in various settings for youth. Now, since their inception, they've tripled the annual reach of Catch Health programs from 1 million to 3 million youth by making their health programs easier to use, aligned to local health and educational needs and standards, and most importantly, fun. We all know we need some fun in our life, right? Now, Catch focuses on improving health in under-resourced communities to address health equity, where the disparities are greatest, including the out-of-school time setting. Now, today, we have Desiree joining us from Catch, a global foundations, to find out how OST programs can leverage Catch no cost to low cost resources to nourish the mind, heart, and body of your program participants. So without further ado, Miss Desiree.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for hopping on and spending your afternoon with me today. And special shout out to After School HQ for this wonderful opportunity. I was blessed to host a webinar just a few months back with them, and it went so well we decided to do a repeat. So for those of you that weren't able to join us, I'm glad to see some new faces and to share Catch's wonderful resources with y'all again. As Marcus said, my name is Desiree, and I'm a community consultant with Catch Global Foundation. And P.S., my ceiling fan wants to be a star of the show today too. So if you see it popping around, it just adds to the glamour. Nonetheless, prior to my time with Catch Global Foundation, I worked at the Washington County Family YMCA in Salem, Indiana. I saw Ruth on here, so shout out to my local YMCAers for being here today. So during my time at the YMCA, I really became familiar with, connecting folks to community resources, going into the schools and sharing health education opportunities. But then, of course, the out of school time space and what that really means and the opportunity to connect and engage to really sustain lifelong relationships and health in positive environments. So I'm so excited to be here to kind of bring that wraparound insight together. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with y'all. So you should be able to see kind of my title slide at this point. Can I get a thumbs up if somebody can see nourishing the mind, heart, and body during OST time? Awesome. I love it. So before we get started, this is a really great way for me to capture everyone that is here today so that when I send a follow-up email, I can be sure to include, how to create a free Catch account, how to pull up your resources. If you're interested in additional information, kind of here's the next steps. So if you would be willing to scan the QR code that is on the screen now using your smartphone or whatever smart device is available to you, that would be wonderful. And I will say that by joining our mailing list, we will not bombard you. You will get a monthly newsletter from us where we highlight special things that are going on around the country, but also the globe. We are an international focus group. So like the past month, I think we zeroed in on a story from Ecuador, which made things really fun and exciting. So we will not bombard you, I promise. And then, of course, a little shameless plug for our social media. That's a great place to follow us. We regularly are posting new videos and giving shout out to our community partners so that you can gain ideas about how other folks are using Catch and what their impact has been. We also just recently launched TikTok. So if you're a TikToker, please follow us on there. I know we just recently posted a really great breathing exercise video that I wish I could hold for the full 5 seconds like they're recommending right now. But as I shared with the After School HQ folks, my household has been struck with COVID. So I'm not quite up to par like I normally am in that aspect. But we'll go ahead and just keep on trucking. And in true catch fashion, we always like to start off each of our lessons with discussing some objectives and kind of setting course for what our time together is going to look like. And so today, my hope is that together we're going to really examine how physical activity and health initiatives act not independently, but rather synergistically. And when we really do that in unison, it really creates that opportunity to improve social behaviors and academic outcomes, identify opportunities and resources for integrating health and physical activity into what you're already doing, so that it doesn't feel like something extra, but it just becomes a part of what you know to do in your routines and standards and practices. And then, of course, we want to explore those opportunities and looking at what it means to really coordinate a program approach to address both that physical and mental well being as part of your out of school time efforts. And I do want to say that a lot of this also translates to being in the classroom, or if you are teaching early learners in the preschool environment, whatever that looks like, a lot of these same tools and resources can carry over. And I even use some of these things at home. So if you're just an interested parent, this is a great place to be as well. But before we get started and I get to share with you all about catch and we do a true deep dive, this wouldn't be a catch thing if we didn't have a little bit of fun before we decide to get ready to learn. At Catch, one of our favorite mottos, and I think I'll probably mention it a couple times, is that if it ain't fun, it don't get done. And we want to get this webinar done today, so that means we have to have a little bit of fun, right? And so we are going to do what we call a little energizer, which is a learning activity that kind of gets our brain going, right? We're priming it for that function to learn and retain information, but also to just get a little bit excited. So, with that, we're going to do an activity that at Catch we like to call true or false. Okay. And it's pretty simple. You can read the screen. If what I say is true, you would simply march in place, right? If what I say is false, you'll maybe do some arm circles. As I shared, I'm not fully under the weather, but I'm not completely out of the weather either. So I'm going to stay seated, but if you want, please feel free to stand and move about in your environment in a way that is safe to you. So again, if what I say is true, we'll just march in place. If we're seated, I'm just picking up my feet, feeling that blood flow a little bit to my feet. And then if what I say is false, we're going to do some arm circles as space allows. So our first question here is true or false? Your heart is a muscle. I can't see everybody, but I see some folks kind of looking like they're doing a little bit of marching in place. That's what we like to see. That's awesome. Number two. So, white bread is more nutritious than whole wheat bread. True or false? Awesome. I see those arms moving, right? The trick there is that we know white bread is not more nutritious than whole wheat bread. Exercise. So, number three, exercise makes your heart stronger. True or false? Right? We just answered earlier that we know our heart is a muscle. And just like all of our other muscles, if we put it to work and we exercise it, we know that it is, in fact, going to grow stronger. Number four, blood does not transport the oxygen from the heart to other parts of the body. True or false? Oh, perfect. I see arm circles. Yes, it is false because we know, in fact, that blood does offer oxygen to the rest of our body. And then number five, I wanted to skip ahead too quickly. Number five, After School HQ is one of the best webinar hosts in all of the land. True or false? That's right. I had better see people marching in place or seeing their bodies bouncing. That's what we like to see. So, this is a really great example of an energizer that you could use before teaching a lesson, right? You want to do a little bit of a pre-test, figure out what the kids already know about what you're going to be covering that day. This is a great way to do that. You can kind of assess kiddos without them even knowing you're assessing their learning. This is also a great way to kind of reinforce, check for understanding. So you just got done doing a wonderful catch lesson on healthy smiles. So maybe you will do this game if you're asking them about what they've learned about brushing, flossing, and swishing. And of course, it could be done really anywhere. It's just for a little bit of fun, right? But again, this can be used by anyone at almost any time, doesn't require a great deal of preparation. And you can put that in your little toolbox to use whenever it makes sense for you. So, as I shared, we are, of course, going to learn a little bit about catch. And catch stands for the coordinated approach to child health, right? So, we can kind of make our little bodies into the shape of the letters. So, what that really means is that we were created to coordinate folks on their journey of teaching health education. So Catch was created actually in the 1980s, but was later formed as a 501(c)(3) nonprofit back in 2014. So we really went hard this year and celebrated our 10th anniversary as a nonprofit, and glad to be able to continue offering our resources that are evidence based and evidence informed to address whole child wellness. And so, as you can see, Catch Global Foundation, pardon me, launches kiddos towards healthier lifestyles by linking underserved communities, schools, other organizations to resources that really kind of create and sustain that healthy change for the future. As you can see, we cover a wide variety of various topics, whether that be our comprehensive health education, PE education, nutrition, social emotional learning, substance misuse by way of Catch My Breath, which is a really popular program, oral health. So, making sure that students are learning all about the importance of proper oral health and hygiene. Sun safety, and then of course it wouldn't be true if we weren't considering where students and kids are also learning about health, by their families and their communities. So we offer a great deal of different resources that kind of focus around those different content areas, but we also offer professional development. Oh, there we go. And we do this through the focus and intention of whole person wellness. And we do this by making sure that throughout our programs and carrying out this intention that we are nurturing the mind, the heart, and the body. And we do this because we recognize that better staff or teachers, whoever they may be, when they're healthy, right? And therefore, healthy students or healthy kiddos, participants, are better learners. And at the end of the day, I think all of our missions lie in the fact that we are just wanting to better the lives of the students and the kiddos that we serve from a day to day basis. And we do this at Catch by utilizing what we kind of call our proven formula, right? We do this through promoting healthy behavior, but then also encouraging that like true adoption, right? So putting that behavior to use for the greater good. So we do this through knowledge building. So throughout our Catch resources, you will recognize that there are opportunities where students are introduced to life. As a journey, right? Because we know that it carries across the lifespan. And it's important for students to have some of those cognitive or personal attributes that they know are true relating to the determinants of health, their values, their sense of self efficacy, and all of those things when it really comes to overcoming health barriers and living day to day life. And we do this not just through that knowledge building, right? So, introductions to topics and key terms and material, but we also do that through skill building. And so, as being involved as part of that journey and our lessons, students are really put into real life scenarios through conversations where they have the ability to take action, work through scenarios, build the skills. Because again, our hope is that they're able to overcome health obstacles as they present themselves across their lifespan. And we do this through active goal setting. So, regardless of the program or the resource, you will recognize that there's goal setting set in place, regular check ins that are promoted so that students and children can focus on a holistic view of health that includes that mind, heart, and body through relevant goals, assessing situations, and putting things into practice. And as I shared earlier, we know that students and kids are spending a lot of time with their parents, their families, the community, whatever that family really looks like to them. And without supporting an environment as a whole, students can only go so far. So at Catch, we really hone in on those opportunities to achieve meaningful, positive, healthy interactions. And a big part of this at Catch is that we really kind of live and breathe Catch by giving children the opportunity to see Catch, right? So, are they seeing it through curriculum materials? Are they seeing it in posters, equipment? Are they seeing it on display by the folks that they love and care about? So, are there MVPs in the schools or in the out of school time setting that are constantly demonstrating healthy behaviors? Are they hearing Catch? Are staff and family members alike using similar verbiage and language? And how is that carried out? And then, of course, are students given the opportunity to do Catch? Because if we know that they are given that opportunity to engage with Catch and do Catch through programs, through fun activities, that when you add all of this together, the secret sauce, right, is that at the end of the day, we know that student success will occur. And we'll actually kind of show you a little bit about what that looks like from an evidence based practice just here shortly as well. But at Catch, we would not be doing this if we were not focusing on the opportunity to drive equity through health education. As I shared earlier, at Catch, we really focus on serving under-resourced communities because good health is foundational to not just our personal success, but societal progress, right? And if we want to see that trajectory for society toward greater equity, where all communities have the ability to participate, prosper, and reach their full potential, we have to do that through effective health education. And so at Catch, communities come to us and fall under our umbrella in a variety of different ways, whether that be through using our completely free, issue specific programs and resources, which are available at no cost, thanks to national sponsors. Or maybe they're following under our global umbrella, right? Because we have partners in various organizations throughout Colombia, Ecuador, Kenya, and India, just to name a brief few. And so today, the resources that I'm going to show you really hone in on that equity piece, right? Of kind of, for lack of better terms, putting our money where our mouth is and offering real time fun activities and resources to youth workers to implement with their kids to really drive home that opportunity for societal progress and trajectory through health education. And as you will see here on the screen, happiness begins with good health, right? And as a child, I believe that's actually from Greer Park Elementary in Michigan, shared that happiness begins with good health. At Catch, we like to say that lifelong health can all begin with a smile. And thus, I introduced to you all Catch Healthy Smiles. And you're probably at this point like, Catch Healthy Smiles, oral health, and after school. Where does that really fit in? Well, we believe that Catch Healthy Smiles can fit into any environment because when we think about child health, tooth decay is the number one childhood disease. As a matter of fact, 56% of US children between the ages of 6 and 8 have untreated cavities. And of those, gum disease affects at least 50% of kids. So when we think about kiddos with cavities, and I don't know about you all, but if you've ever had tooth pain, we can think about how debilitating that can be, right? Well, statistics show that students with poor oral health are 3 times more likely to miss school and therefore 2 times more likely to perform poorly, which means what? If they're missing school, they're probably missing programming, right? So if they're not at school, they're probably not coming to before school or after school or whatever that learning environment is that you're hoping to provide them. So when we think about that programming time, we know how essential it is to kiddos and their overall success. We know that programming time impacts our performance both in and out of school. And therefore, Catch Healthy Smiles is a really easy opportunity to hone in on those health skills related to protecting our smiles. And so Catch Healthy Smiles consists of 5 25-minute sessions for each grade level, starting from kindergarten. And I should also say, we do also offer carpet time for preschool. So there are some pre K opportunities in there as well in Catch Healthy Smiles. But for that kindergarten through second grade opportunity, there's built in slideshow presentations so that when you're integrating Catch Healthy Smiles, you're giving those students the power to discover the causes of tooth decay related to dietary choices and poor oral health habits. You're helping them really develop those skills to learn how to effectively brush and floss and make an emphasis on choosing those tooth healthy foods and drinks, but also recognize the importance of regular dental visits, right? And then also, of course, as we shared earlier, a big piece of lifelong health are creating those goals. So even in kindergarten, we're encouraging students and kiddos to think about personal oral health through creating their own care goals. And so when we think about this and the opportunity that we have to encourage kiddos to, brush their teeth for 2 minutes a day with the help of adults, we're reminding them to floss with a fun character like Weaver, who reminds us with Weaver the Beaver with his big front teeth to make sure that we weave floss each day. We're hopefully creating that story and that reminder to kiddos that the fundamentals of health can all start with a smile. And this is a really great example of one of the actual slides you might find in one of the Catch Healthy Smiles curricula units. And so during this slide, staff or teachers are encouraging kiddos to think about why crunchy fruits and vegetables like apples, carrots, and celery might be called nature's toothbrush, right? And it's because when we take a bite, that crunch is actually helping us clean our teeth from plaque and other bacteria, which then set into those cavities. And so when you utilize something like this, which I also almost forgot to mention, that there are parent and caregiver tool guides and kits available in Spanish as well. So if I click back at this other slide, you'll see here like this little ice cube cavity activity. That's one you would actually maybe throw in a folder to send home, encourage students to participate with their families at home by doing their own little discovery. And so that's an example that would come from that parent toolkit and guide, which is available both again in English and Spanish. And another really wonderful asset that we have, and when I think about out of school time, and my kiddos are in a wonderful after school program, and when the weather is nice and they're able to go outside, you can find them outside working up a sweat, having a lot of fun. But one key health area that we may not be discussing or teaching is what it means to really take care of our skin while we're having fun outdoors, right? Are we really prepping and preparing kiddos to choose sun safety while they're outside and having fun? Well, Ray and the Sunbeatables and Be Sunbeatable is another really great curriculum opportunity that can find its home in a lot of different ways in a lot of different areas. But the key component of it is that students are engaged in a fun curriculum to help Ray and the rest of his friends stay sun safe. Again, they're developing their safe plans or their goals for every day to ensure that they're taking care of themselves while they're outside. They're also learning the ability to recognize the importance of sun safety while creating routines that support the lifelong opportunity to reduce the risk of skin cancer. And again, we're like, okay, sun safety. Where does this really? Why is Catch really focused on this? Well, we know that sun safety is fundamental to health because 1 in 5, right? So if we think about the folks in our on our webinar today, 1 out of every 5 of us is likely to develop skin cancer in our lifetime. And when we think about that through the lens of health, for kiddos, one or more sunburns as a child, so in childhood, will double your lifetime risk of developing melanoma, which we know is to be the deadly type of skin cancer. And I don't know if y'all can see me, but I'm pretty fair. And I definitely had more than a couple of sunburns as a kiddo. And so, as we're encouraging kids and students to really think about lifelong health, it's imperative that they also consider what it means to take care of their skin while they're outside having fun, playing sports, whatever it is that they're doing. through age appropriate activities. And this is an example on the screen of an activity for grades 3 through 5, where they're encouraged to create their own 3D skin model, right? So they're having fun, they're getting their hands dirty, they're putting themselves in situations where they're having to think on their feet, they're given the freedom to create and express themselves while also learning about health. And when I think of after school, and some of us focus on STEM activities, what a better way than to hone in on science and the ability to really dive into sun safety through creating those 3D skin models. And so, similarly to Catch Healthy Smiles, this program is complete with a teacher's guide, right? So, if you're like, you know what, I would actually be interested in teaching sun safety or oral health to my wonderful kids that I work with every day. There is a teacher's guide that's available that walks you through each lesson, each presentation, tells you when exactly to do what and how to implement it. And then, of course, what I love about it is that it's free, right? So it's not an additional cost you're having to look at if it's something that you're passionate about incorporating. But at Catch, we offer it to you completely at no cost, just like Healthy Smiles. And as I shared, we offer that teacher guide. So here's kind of a really great example of what those teacher instructions would look like, right? And this is for a different activity, which I love because it means we get to take kiddos outside and do a little bit further investigation. So in this one, students are encouraged to conduct an experiment where they are taking note of how the sun's shadow would change throughout the course of the day. And so, as you can see, again, it's leaning itself really beautifully towards a STEM activity or even just general health focus if you kind of have more of a club setting environment, whatever that looks like. And so, while we know that the future of our kids is bright, we know that the academics and the performance will increase when we're engaging with healthy kids. We also know that kids, unfortunately, not just within our country, but around the globe, are experiencing an epidemic right now. And that's where we know that vaping or the use of e-cigarettes is one that they're facing. And so Catch My Breath is another no cost resource that we developed in kind of response to that major health crisis right now. Catch My Breath is a evidence-based curriculum that's designed for grades 5 through 12. It's composed of 4 key lessons. And if you are keeping track of national or state education standards, it is aligned to that as well. And so, what we love about Catch My Breath is that it was designed by our lead researcher and professor and great friend, Dr. Stephen Kelder from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston School of Public Health. So not only was it, created in partnership with some really phenomenal and educated researchers, but it's driven by a youth advisory board. And what makes that different is that we actually have youth that we meet with on a regular basis, that we walk through curriculum, we walk through activities with, and we get their insight and feedback because we know that while research is important, we also need it to be relevant, right? We want kiddos to be able to feel like they can connect with the materials that they're learning because without it being relevant, it's not going to be engaging, right? If it's not engaging, we know it's not going to be fun. And at Catch, our motto is if it ain't fun, it don't get done. And if they're not engaged, we know that we can't create that real life impact. And so I always like to share Catch My Breath because of its promising outcomes. It is actually endorsed by a variety of educational, public, and government entities of all shapes and sizes. And one more outstanding thing about Catch My Breath is that, like our others, it's also available in English and Spanish. And this is just kind of a little ditty about some of the impact that has been shown in Catch My Breath. It is the first and only evidence based vaping prevention program that impacts knowledge and behavior change, right? So we know that we're creating those skills that are really driving that behavioral change that so many of us are passionate about. And you'll see that there's reductions in nicotine vaping use, both in the lifetime and within the past 30 days. But there's also that increase of knowledge, positive perception, and it is SAMHSA recommended, which is also really handy if you were to ever be exploring, grant opportunities that are zeroed in from SAMHSA. And this kind of shows us in a picture what the impact of Catch My Breath could look like. So you're probably asking, like, why vaping prevention and out of school time? Well, if we know students are vaping in school, there's a likelihood that they may be vaping in out of school settings, whether we like to admit that or not. So it's important for us to consider that the number of youth in our program, when we look at kind of this screen, let's just say you have 192 program participants, which in my southern small rural part of the state is pretty large, but it's a good assessment for us to really visualize in real life numbers based upon our research what this looks like. If we do nothing, right? So if we don't talk about Catch My Breath, we don't do the activities, we're not engaging with students about vaping prevention, we know that out of 192 of them, 17 will try e-cigarettes if we don't do anything, right? But if we decide to be proactive and we want to put our place in a role of prevention with kiddos, we know that we will prevent 8 of them from trying e-cigarettes just by implementing Catch My Breath in those 4 simple lessons. And by doing so, when we think about this on a national scale, if Catch My Breath were implemented in all public institutions or schools, I should say, over 153,000 students would be prevented from ever trying an e-cigarette. What could that number look like if we look at all of the after school programs throughout our country? How many fewer students and kids would be saved from a lifelong addiction to e-cigarettes, tobacco, the such. So when we think about the out of school time, we are developing relationships with our kids. We're sharing impactful information with them that can set them on that lifelong journey towards lifelong health. And this is a great way to do it. Again, it's a pre-programmed slide. You can download it. You can do slideshows. There's activities. One of my personal favorites is where students are analyzing the impact of vaping on kind of their dopamine response, right? And in the lesson, they're challenged to think of healthy alternatives that create a similar dopamine response and creating goals to how they can ensure they're fueling their body and getting that good dopamine feeling through running, through arts, through, playing basketball, whatever it is that speaks to them in a way that they're recognizing they have control over those feelings as well. So I always like to showcase those free resources because they're a great place to start, right? We can think easily about 4 to 5 times throughout the year where we may not have something planned or plans shift and now we're looking for something extra to do. Those are a great place to turn. But when we think of really setting up that environment for great success, for an environment where kiddos have the ability to get up and play and move about and really fuel their bodies through intentional movement and fun with their peers, Catch Kids Club comes to mind. So in addition to those free resources Catch has to offer, we also offer an evidence-based curriculum specifically designed for out of school time. So whether you're finding yourself, after school, before school, maybe it's during summer breaks or holiday break, whatever that looks like. This is a community program that is really developed to assist in creating those healthy behaviors for kiddos through short lessons on healthy eating. We offer considerations for social emotional learning opportunities. And then, of course, the big piece, right? Getting that built up energy burn out through physical activity. And what I like to mention too about Catch Kids Club is that we have it available both digitally and in a hard copy kit. So I know a lot of folks, if you are familiar with Catch, it's typically from kind of a yellow toolbox, right? With all of the cards in there that you can pull out, you can do different activities. But we have also fully digitized in the last few years, which is exciting news. And each activity in our kit includes information and instructions for staff on how to effectively teach the program, the activity, and really how to do that in a clear, organized, simple, and easy way that allows your after school, or I should say, out of school time planning to be made fairly easy for you. And so, similarly, as I've shared, we want students or kiddos to make sure we're having fun. When they're engaging in Catch Kids Club, our hope is that they're encouraged by physical activity because they're having fun, and they're doing it in a way that they can enjoy by connecting to relevant sports or through fun activities like we have a beanbag game or playing with the parachute, whatever that looks like. But really, the main key objective is that we want children involved in at least half an hour of physical activity every day during programming, right? And during that time, we hope that children are up and moving in moderate to vigorous physical activity, right? So their hearts are starting to work a little harder, at least 50% of that time. So when we think about 30 minutes, for 15 minutes of that time, those kids should really be putting in some effort and maximizing their work. And as part of Catch Kids Club, we are really hopeful that students feel like they have the opportunity to participate, participate, participate. And that's through practicing, learning new skills, getting that progression in, then having the opportunity to participate and practice again to continually build on those skills, so that all children are provided with opportunities to participate and practice movement skills, to hopefully launch them on that lifelong journey of where they're like, oh, I've practiced this enough. I can take this home and do this. And this is something I can teach my younger siblings when I get home, or I would really love to do this with mom or aunt and uncle, whoever it is, whenever I get the chance. And so those are the big things about Catch Kids Club is that we hope they have fun. We hope they take it home and that we're getting them in that moderate to vigorous physical activity because we know that that is crucial to brain development and learning. But what makes Catch Kids Club different than other out of school time physical activity curriculum, or what makes us different from nutrition education opportunities that exist out there? Well, one of the big ones is that we actually do meet the National After School Association standard for healthy eating and physical activity. So, making sure we're in that HEPA compliance, right? So, if we're encouraging students when they're coming to after school program to bring healthy snacks, how can we teach them to do that? Well, Catch Kids Club is a great place to start. And as I shared, we are evidence based, and it is included as one of Catch's interventional materials in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's SNAP Ed toolkit. So if you receive SNAP Ed funding and you're looking for curriculum, this is a great place to turn as well. But what I really love about Catch is that it's fully inclusive. And when we think about programs and their adaptability to make sure we're including children of all ability, right, regardless of physical or intellectual disability, Catch offers guidance throughout the activities. We actually have a free training that walks you through and encourages you to think about how do you include students of all ability. And to kind of add to our evidence-based findings, I do always like to share kind of our little data because I'm a bit of a data nerd. Ruth's on here. She can definitely attribute to that. But Catch Kids Club was implemented in 8 schools, and then wasn't implemented in our 8 control schools, right? So non-implementing or non-participating programs. The portion of time that children were engaged in moderate to vigorous activities increased at those implementation sites at 56.8%. So almost 60%, right? So when we think about that in terms of increase, the opportunity that kiddos are moving more in an organized, routine manner increased significantly. But in those control schools where, nothing was really happening, it wasn't structured, it wasn't part of their day-to-day plans and routine, it decreased to 31.3%. So if we round those numbers, you're looking at 60% to 30%. That's quite a gap in the difference of the way students and kids are being served and their ability to navigate towards lifelong health. Implementation sites reduced unstructured free time by 64 minutes and increase active play by 30 minutes. So again, we recognize that moderate to vigorous physical activity was increased by 30 minutes. And another key thing about this was that children at those Catch Kids Club sites, their understanding and food knowledge was increased when compared to the other control group. And so, similarly to our free resources, we know that in the environment at home, in the community, whatever that looks like, is just as critical to a child's health. And therefore, Catch Kids Club offers a variety of parent tip sheets to promote caregiver and family engagement and healthy nutrition activities, recommendations on how to take games home. Like, for instance, we have a bowling game. I can't remember the exact name of it. Forgive me, but, in the after school setting, we may have available bowling pins or even like a small bowling ball. But at home, have we taught them that maybe they could set up water bottles and pitch socks to knock over their made up bowling pins? Or if we're doing an activity with scarves, have we considered, hey, did you know you can do that with like a Walmart plastic sack by tying them together? And now you have a long scarf to do, different activities with. And again, just reminding families and kids about the opportunities to take health home. And at Catch, this is kind of what the general putting it all together looks like, right? So you're like, okay, Desiree, this is great. I know that Catch Kids Club focuses on specific things, but what does the day to day look like? Well, each day when we are encouraging that physical activity and we've got it planned, each one is going to start with a warm up period, right? So similar to our true or false, we're going to get ready to move. We're going to get that blood flowing. We may do some stretches. We may do some breathing activities, but we're really getting in that headspace of, okay, we're going to have some fun and we're going to move. And then we dive into at least one, if not two activities, where again, we're focusing on that moderate to vigorous activity, where we're focusing on what we like to call the 3 E's. We're emphasizing, right? We're reminding kiddos that physical activity is fun. We're coaching them on the benefits that they're receiving as they're doing the physical activity. And we're reminding them of the rewards of physical activity. We're strengthening our hearts, we're fueling our brain, we are strengthening our leg muscles so that when we decide we want to run cross country next year, we're a little bit stronger. Whatever it is, you can fine tune that to making it personal to the students or the kids that you're working with. And we're maintaining an encouraging environment. And we do this by increasing cooperation, by limiting competition, right? So we're downplaying the win, right? The trophy when we can. And we're encouraging participation with positive reinforcement when necessary. And of course, we're encouraging kiddos to stay active regardless of their time at after school, but also outside of programming. And then the equity piece, right? We're really trying to focus on all students and their abilities while giving them, regardless if they're the star athlete or not, regardless of their gender, their race, their place in society, whatever that may be, that they have the opportunity to demonstrate their skills that they're learning. And then, of course, we're always trying to figure out a way to return to normal as best as we can through a cool down activity. And so when we look at this, we also, have some best practices through our ready, set, go mentality. So making sure you have a plan. Are you designing your plans with your size, space, equipment, your facility in mind? When you look at this picture, you can see that the teacher in this example recognizes that setting the students up in a circle is really great for her classroom management for this particular activity. You're discussing rules with the kids. They're helping identify their own rules and behaviors and setting those expectations. You're developing routines. So, how are you going to start your activity? How are they going to know that we're transitioning from one activity to the next? Again, is it that ready, set, go? What are your start and stop signals? So when it's time to move to a new activity, maybe you pause the music, or when it's time to transition, you start music, and when they're all there, you pause the music to then get started on the activity. How are you distributing equipment? Are you thinking about, proximity, and as students are entering the activity space, maybe you have the equipments on the four corners, and as you're doing that warm up of walking around the gym, as they pass, cone A, they're grabbing a bean bag. As they pass cone B, they're grabbing a ball or whatever that looks like. And then, of course, practicing those skills we need to keep kids on task. Maintaining perimeter, right? Like if we get close to students, they know when we're in their spatial surroundings that I should probably focus on what I'm supposed to do. So are we moving? Are we setting up our classroom or the gym space in a way that allows me to move freely so that I can, you know, think about my proximity, my pace, my ability to praise students when I recognize that they're doing something well. And then, of course, figuring out how we discourage disruptive behavior. At Catch, we say that, boredom breeds that disruption. So, how do we keep them moving? Is it through those constant signals like, I'm watching you, man? Or maybe it's a two claps if we know that students are off pace and we need to have eyes and ears and redirect. But it's consistent and those efficient and effective techniques that we can resort to making sure on task behavior is our focus. And so it would not be any fun if I didn't show you what some of this curriculum actually looks like. So if we look into catch.org, let's say you've created a free account and we want to take a look at Catch Kids Club. We'll click into this little tile here. Again, it's made for out of school time. You'll recognize that we do have it separated by grade bands. So you'll see K5, then 5 through 8. And I will show you kind of what that separation looks like. We also have those SEL integration activities, and then that nutrition curriculum for K through 5, also broken down by grade bands. But if we click into K through 5, you will recognize kind of this layout throughout all of our tiles, regardless of your exploration on Catch. So when we look at grades K through 5, you will see that it's kind of broken down by activities here. You can also look into sample activity plans. So if we want to do this by unit, so let's say, we want to focus on aerobic games for a week. This could be a sample activity lesson plan for you to follow. But then if we go back and look at 5 through 8, you will see that it looks pretty much the exact same, right? But you will see a lot more focus on sport activities because we recognize as children kind of move into that middle school space, that's typically what they're going to see in physical education class or what they're doing in their own spare time is they're really honing in on those hobbies. But for the sake of kind of showing you what has been an improvement or an upgrade from our hard copy kits is this wonderful activity explorer. So let's say, yeah, Desiree, this is great. I already kind of have my own routine and rhythm, but I just want to infuse some additional activities here and there. The Activity Explorer is a great place to start outside of clicking through, going into a cooperative game, then clicking into Hoop Around, trying to figure out what that looks like, or what activity space is required, what equipment is needed. You can use the Activity Explorer here to search by activity name. Maybe you already know the name. Maybe you love Mingle Mingle and you want to look that one up. This is a great place to go. You can even go into those specific types. Like maybe you have an outside guest that comes in and does fitness, but it would be great to get them warmed up or to lead a cool down before you transition to a next activity. This is a great place to look as well. You can even go in as specific as subtypes. So if again, you're covering nutrition in a lesson and you would love for some activity that's focused on nutrition, you could click that. And now we know that 12 different activities are going to pop up for us to check out. You can also go into specific skills and concepts. So if you know that you are going to be starting a soccer unit and you really want to teach safe defending, perhaps this is a great place to start. And then I even like that you can zero in as specific as solo, pairs, or groups. Because let's face it, there are some days where you may have a group event planned and the kids are just not jiving, they're not getting along. So it may be best to transition to a solo activity. But now you've got to thumb through all of these activities in that box. Oh, wait, I can go to the Activity Explorer and look for a solo activity that doesn't require any equipment. Perfect. Now I've got 21 different activities to choose from. Or you've got booted from the gym because there's a convocation or a craft fair tonight and you've got to get out of there and you're just in a classroom. Oh, we've got a limit with our self space. What does that look like? Now we've found 4 different activities. Maybe you're doing a craft with balloons and you would love to bring balloons into your activity play now. You can even search by specific equipment. My favorite one, like I shared, is socks, right? We want to teach kiddos how they can go home and play games. Let's pull up our sock activity. There's one, it exists. But we also have video demos that I like to show. So if we click into video demo, you will see 20 different activities, and we're adding more consistently. But you will now see different activities that show you exactly um, how to run the activity. So this is kind of what we would call like our activity card. Everything is printable. You can also download it as a PDF. And this walks you through the setup. It makes recommendations for how to vary things so that you're not doing the same activity day in, day out. And it also even has some virtual adaptation recommendations if we ever find ourselves in a way that we're having to teach this way. But we have this video that's available both in English and Spanish. And I will start it, and I've got it on mute, but I'm going to kind of scroll through quickly so you can kind of see what the video showcases. So in this particular section, it's showing you exactly how to set up the activity. In this section, it's walking you through the commands that you need to know to effectively run the activity. And now it's showing you ways to change the command for progression or to, spice things up a bit, whatever that looks like. So these videos are also really handy because it then also makes recommendations for inclusion and adaption as well. So that is the Activity Explorer in a very quick nutshell, kind of an overview of what an activity card would look like. And of course, it wouldn't be any fun if we didn't do an activity. And I know we're running very close on time, and I want to make sure we have time for questions. So this is one of my favorite examples that is found in the Activity Explorer and in our hard copy boxes. And this is called dicer size. So in theory, you could do this a number of different ways. You would have the face of the die associated with a specific movement, right? So if we were to roll a 1 as a group, now we're all going to do arm circles. If we roll a 5, we'd be doing squats. But what I like about this is in the actual activity, if we go back, and I know that this one lives under K through 5 just for quick navigation purposes. If we go to the Activity Explorer, I'm going to search up equipment because we were playing games with dice and I want to find an activity that includes dice. So now we've got dicer size. And if we pull this up again, you've got a die for each student. You're going to be doing this with music. And this is one of my favorite slides too, because this is how you know we've been around since the 80s. It does tell you to consider pre-recording a cassette tape. You might try YouTube Music or Spotify or something these days. But if you've still got a handy dandy Walkman or cassette player, hats off to you. But what I love about this is it involves student voice and choice. So if we click into this dicer size exercise card, you could set these up throughout stations, but there's also an opportunity to print out a blank one, right? So that when you're instructing students, they're coming up with their own exercises or activities. So this could really carry over to if you're teaching a basketball unit. Maybe if they roll a 1, they're gonna practice a layup. If they roll a 2, they're going to do a free throw. If they hit a 3, they're going to practice dribbling around the cones. Whatever that looks like, you have endless opportunities for encouraging student voice and choice. And here's the dicer size create your own card. But to make it work for your environment and what you're wanting to do. And that's the beauty of the majority of Catch's activities is that there's endless possibilities to make that curriculum or the activity make sense for you. And then this is a great example of a cool down. Again, if we had time, we would do a little breathing activity. Again, this can be found in our Catch Kids Club Activity Explorer or the hard copied boxes. And this is what we call Take 5. So again, we're kind of returning to that normal state through a breathing activity. And this is a really great, simple, easy one. Once you memorize it once, pull it out of your hat at any time you need to use it through cool down or transitions. Also a really great opportunity to redirect if we do have students that or kiddos that find themselves really excited by a sport and they might need to refocus. And so with that, kind of our next steps to orient you to Catch is to consider joining our Educators Club. When we look at our dashboard, which hopefully you can see here, if we go back to our program home to our dashboard, you will see the Educators Club. Every month, we put up a new destination. So this month, our stop is in Thailand. When we click into that, we have a dance of the month that you're encouraged to use. Again, completely free, great for indoor recess. It's raining outside, but we still want to get kids up and moving. There's also global games that are associated with that destination each month. So this month is T Wong Wall, which is tire racing. So this is teaching kiddos a traditional game from Thailand that you could utilize. And again, we offer suggestions. You might not have a clean tire laying around, but you may have a plastic ring, and you could do like a hula hoop, whatever that looks like. And then each month we also are putting up a go food recipe, right? So there are no foods, but we do focus on go, slow, and woe foods. And so this is a recipe that focuses on 3 go foods and walks them through. So again, print this out, put it in your folders, or put it on social media for parents to engage with. Again, you're now taking some of what they're learning while you're catchifying your norms and routines in after school and sending it home. And so, as we like to wrap up, again, I know we're short on time. This is a great example of a way that you can wrap up a session or an activity. And that's to focus again on that mind, heart, and body, because we're bringing that intention into everything we're bringing in that mental health, those mental health capacities and competencies, and bringing them into physical activity or learning initiatives, whatever that looks like. And this is a great example of sharing something you learned, right? So something we've learned in our mind, something we're feeling in our heart, or something we're excited about doing or taking home, our 2 feet, we're moving our body, something to do. So in the chat, as we wrap up and start asking or answering questions, feel free to drop in a mind, heart, or body example of your own. Mine, I always like to end up with a heart. Again, if you know me, I have a really big heart, and I'm a big warm fuzzy person. So my heart that I'm feeling today is just really inspired and appreciative of this opportunity to engage with you all, to share this space where we could learn and think about our whole child initiatives when we're working with the youth that we serve day in, day out to meet their needs. So with that, I would love to open it for questions. I know we're right here at the time. And of course, my email is here. My phone number is there if you would prefer to follow up a question that way. Thank you all so very much.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Desiree, sincerely for the insight. We truly appreciate you. I know I gained something out of it as well. So thank you for that. We have a minute or two. So would love, if somebody does have a question, would love to come off mute, ask that question. Outside of that, please leverage her email here, her contact information. And yes, the call was recording, so we will provide the recording, which will include some of the deck as well, too, for those who did ask. But yes, does anybody have a question for Desiree before we hop on off?
Yes, I have a quick.
Okay.
With the program I have, and I might be speaking for this really, I know she said that you could create an account.
All right, Miko, we're having a little difficulty hearing you clearly.
I'm sorry. Okay, that she said that you can create an account. Do it come with a cost?
No, so our Educators Club is completely free. So you can create a free catch account, and I will send a follow-up email to our participants to make sure you know how to set up that account, access our free resources. Catch Kids Club does come at a very small amount, and if that's something you're interested in, you can find all of our pricing very transparent on our website as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for asking. And again, you will see a link via the chat. I'll drop it one more time. This is a link that you can actually leverage to connect directly with AfterSchool HQ, learn a little bit more about how we can be a resource. And obviously, we will continue to keep you all posted with additional webinars in the future. But again, Desiree, thank you sincerely for your time. We appreciate you all, and we hope everybody else has a phenomenal rest of your day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
You're very much welcome.